Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan talking about the nonsensical talking point that the left keeps on harping on, which is Donald Trump will never leave office if he's given a second term. It is such a weird point. It doesn't make any sense. They're not bringing up any case to really say why it is that he would never leave. It's nonsense. And I'm so glad Joe Rogan decided to touch on this. Jimmy and Joe both have some great points in regards to this talking point, because again, it makes no sense. So I'm going to show you them talking about this, and then I'm going to play some of the greats who talk about Trump never leaving office. So, you know, of course, there's going to be a little De Niro in there. There's going to be a little Maddow in there, a little Rachel Maddow, very handsome lady. You know what I mean? Going to be a little Liz Cheney in there. That's a new one. Haven't had her on the channel before. And then we're probably going to wrap it up. Let's get into it.
This is a dirty, corrupt system. They're a part of it. Let's go. Let's party. I think we can bust this move out. Everybody's sick.
But don't you think...
It's called the CARES Act.
It's called the CARES Act.
Like the Patriot Act. What, aren't you a patriot?
And they say, yeah.
Are you a patriot, Jimmy?
You don't care about America?
Why do you care about America or not?
Why do you hate freedom?
Yeah, why do you hate freedom? You won't sign the Patriot Act.
It's called the Patriot Act. The most Nazi-like thing ever. The government can now spy on
that's
you.
That's the Patriot Act, too.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of the Patriot Act, too.
Okay. Electric Boogaloo?
Or the National Defense Authorization Act.
Oh, yeah.
Those ones. They're passed through.
In the 2011 NDAA, Section 1021, Barack Obama got rid of habeas corpus.
That's not important. What's really important is that we get these trillionaires all their money for COVID.
Got rid of habeas corpus, Joe. So now, I mean, habeas corpus was in the Magna Carta. Mm-hmm. So now we're operating on a liberty view from somewhere around the 1100s. And people don't. Democracy's on the ballot. You fucking more. Democracy hasn't been on the ballot for decades and decades. You don't live in a democracy. You live in an oligarchy, which was proven by a Princeton study over 10 years ago. And when are you going to get pissed off about that? No, because the TV guy says, no, it's the Joe Biden's democracy and Trump isn't. And don't you love all that shit about how, he'll never leave office? I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know a president could just decide to not. So every president has left office just because they're good people? Just because they decided to? Oh, he's going to be a dictator. I didn't know a president. I thought we had co-equal branches of government. How is this all shit? They just say this shit. And none of it's true. And they all just make it up. He was already president one time. He left office.
Yeah, we
already lived through it.
Everybody's pretending that if he gets into office, he's going to be the horrible thing that they predicted that didn't take place when he was in office for 4 years. What evidence are you basing this on? The evidence that when he was actually the president, and he was for 4 fucking years,
right?
Like he did none of those things. He didn't prosecute his political rivals. He didn't go after Hillary Clinton.
He didn't even though she's a super criminal. Remember the FBI, the Comey guy came out and he said, "Yeah, this is going to sound crazy in a couple of different ways, but yes, we found hundreds of high-level documents, secret, classified documents on her server, but we're not going to prosecute her." I know this is going to sound weird. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Somebody made a hilarious video out of it. They put it to music.
It was weird at the beginning because a lot of people, myself included, saw him firing Comey. I'm like, whoa, you're going to fire the head of the FBI because he doesn't like you? Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And
Comey's a piece of shit.
But what I was going to say is because of that happening, it caused so many people to start going, what has the FBI done? Like, what are they doing? And then you start reading stories and you start understanding the history of it. And you're like, oh, what? What
did they do?
What have they been involved in?
I know what.
Good things. A lot of good things. There's a few, but like with any kind of large organization, there's a lot of competitive people trying to rise to the top. You're going to get unscrupulous fellas.
Sociopaths. Rise to the top.
Yeah, and they're going to do some things. And if they're in high positions of power and they can manipulate everyone around them to go with it, that's what you get. You get in every human situation.
Yeah,
where people
you know
are
what you get? You get January 6th. Yeah. That's what you get. You get Russiagate. I know that the FBI lied to the FISA court 17 times so they could get a tap on Donald Trump's phones. That happened. They lied to the FISA court 17 times. Nobody talks about that. Nobody pays a price for that. They did it to the goddamn. You know. I'm sure you saw the video of when Chuck Schumer was on with Rachel Maddow, and he says, talking about Trump, that he's being really dumb to criticize the intelligence community, meaning the CIA and the FBI. And Rachel Maddow says, why? And he says, because they've got 6 ways to Sunday to mess with you back. So what he really was saying there, that was the leading Democrat in the Senate, the leader of the party. He was telling people into a camera that the president, that the CIA and the FBI doesn't work for the president, that he has to worry about them. And if they don't work for the president, who the fuck do they work for, Joe?
Right. Exactly.
And of course, Rachel Maddow never asked that question. She's never going to do that because she's a lapdog of the military-industrial complex, Wall Street, Big Pharma, all of them. They're all the same.
It's a natural thing that takes place when any organization gets extreme power. And that was supposed to be mitigated, right? And this is like the problem that Kennedy had with secret societies. This is the problem that Kennedy had with the CIA and what Kennedy had with the NSA. When you ever get people that are above everything, like this concept of the deep state, you put your tinfoil hat on when you just say the word deep state. Everybody who is not paying attention, people that are just reading mainstream news, you say deep state, they go, oh God, he's a QAnon guy. I gotta get out of here. The deep state's real. And it's
100%.
It's real. It's the intelligence community.
And Chuck Schumer said they don't work for the president. Okay, well, what?
They don't.
And they don't.
They don't.
And so they would even brag about it when Trump first became president. They would go on, Comey and other people would go on interviews and they would say, Mr. President, we're going to be here we were here before you, we're going to be here after you.
Yeah.
So they don't give a shit about the president. They're just saying it out loud. They would say it out loud. And so, so people are conditioned.
But isn't that just what happens when you have competitive human beings locked into these organizations that have extreme power? It's just you're always going to have that with human beings. These are like human behavior patterns that they always follow. It's that
just like our country is ending the way all empires end. We overextend ourselves militarily, which brings me to what is that you're smoking?
It's a cigar.
Oh, really?
When I don't want a full cigar, I smoke one of these little tiny Monte Cristos. It's a little baby cigar. You want a cigar?
No.
I'll smoke a real one with you.
No, I did that once, and because I used to smoke cigarettes. And I'm like, everybody started smoking cigars at one time when I first moved to Los Angeles. I was like, I could smoke cigars.
These are nice ones because Ron White turned me onto these.
It woke up the beast and I started smoking cigarettes again. Yeah, no good.
Beast.
So I can't do.
That's exactly what happened to me. I figured I'd have a cigar. I just wanted to celebrate. I quit smoking. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. Next thing you know, I'm smoking a cigar every day for 2 weeks. It was terrible. I had big ones. I had little ones. It was nuts. Waking up the beast. He said it perfectly. Here's the thing. Let's get right into it. And I'm also going to show you that Chuck clip because that's a classic and it needs to never be forgotten. It needs to be in a history book somewhere where it was just a Democratic leader just said on a show that the intelligence agencies are upset with the president and the president better fall in line. That needs way more coverage than it got because nobody cared. It was only on Twitter for the longest time. You find it on YouTube here and there. Not really. I think my channel and maybe a bunch of others are the only ones that really have it. It's an interesting little thing. Let's get into the people. I just want to say first, I couldn't find the Cuomo quote where he said, we'll be here long after you guys. I tried to find it in video. I tried to find articles about it. I could not find that. Also, Cuomo being fired. I found that very interesting. I was exploring that. I'm not going to bring up all the research I did on it, but it's almost like that was the first hint of what I think we're going to see Trump as this second term. He saw somebody who needed to go and he got rid of him. Little did he know there was a bunch of other people around him that had to go as well. And I think this time around, just for sake of who we're talking about, there's going to be no Cuomo's around him. He's going to handle it very quickly. And, he really needed to. As you look into Cuomo and then also, or Comey, whatever. As you see him now, he's doing all these interviews. It's so interesting to me how people from intelligence will just all of a sudden they're just doing interviews. They're just on MSNBC. I'm telling you, it's so blatant now, the connection between the two worlds. It's so blatant, it's just in your face. Because why would you be interviewing him? I get it after he got fired, like, wow, what do you think about this? But then all of a sudden, he's popping up on news organizations like he's a correspondent, like he's a contributor. It's like, what's going on? Don't you fall into the shadows now? Don't you get a job at Trader Joe's or something? Or don't you go to like a different foundation and like work there? Like what? Don't you work for the FDA after or something like that? I don't know. It just really doesn't make sense to me that he's on so many shows. And then also, just to what Joe said, I'm sure I have to be wrong about this, in regards to the agencies, but what good have they done? I'm guessing, benefit of the doubt, the good that they do goes unseen. Maybe it's abroad and we just never know. That's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, In terms of in our face, the good that they do, tell me in the comments, because I must be wrong, because every organization has to do some good, so I must be wrong, but I don't know any good. I couldn't tell you a thing off the top of my head. And if you notice, when Joe's like, there's some good, they've done a lot of good, he couldn't name anything either. He had hours. He was with Jimmy for like 3 hours. He could have just been like, let me give you a list of things. No, he didn't have anything. Let's move on now. And then I'm going to break down the 6 ways from Sunday, but we'll get into that in a second. First person to say that he's not going to leave office. Funny, man. Funny. I'm going to show you a little something. Robert De Niro, of course. I recently just did a piece on him in all of his buffoonery.
And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave. What does that mean? Is that the country we want to live in? Do we want him running this country and saying, I'm not leaving, I'm dictator for life?
What's he talking about? I would love to know where he's getting that information, why he's saying. All it took was one person to be like, what do you mean? And he just would have been thrown off. What do you mean he's not going to leave? What do you mean he's going to be dictator for life? What are you talking about? What interview did you hear? What quote do you have for us, Robert De Niro? Please, Robert De Niro, tell us about your research. I'm sure this thing that you're reading in front of all of us is research and not a script that's been given to you by the administration. I'm sure it's obviously research you were up all night typing out. That's what it was, right? 80 years old, that's what he's doing at nighttime? Sure. Another one, handsome lady. Let's get into it.
About the court as the Supreme Court of the United States and a rational actor and a decent one. That was a reasonable supposition, and it just turns out they're not that. Incremental bit of progress here. The important question here is not whether the Supreme Court is going to decide that Donald Trump and all presidents are immune from prosecution for things crimes they committed while they were president. I mean, it would be fully insane for them to actually side with Trump here, right? The conclusion that we can arrive at now based on what they have done without having to wait for the ruling is that they are ensuring that Trump will not face trial. And when they inevitably rule that presidents aren't immune from prosecution after they leave office, what that will tell Donald Trump, if by then he is president, is that he can never leave the office of the presidency.
Right.
And if he is voted out in 2028, he cannot leave office, and he is willing to he is welcome to commit any crimes he wants to, as long as he is still president, in order to ignore the result of that election and stay in power for life, because otherwise he is going to go to prison when he gets out.
See, I wanted to play that in full because at least she's trying to give an explanation, but that explanation also doesn't make any sense. If you have, like right now, a lot of cases against Trump, a lot of them, I believe the case that he just went through, the hush money case, and it's not, I'll just say the Jack Smith case. All these things seem to be falling apart now. Oh, and the J6 stuff as well. That's falling apart because he has immunity. They've ruled. And it's funny because she's like, they're not going to rule, but they did. Sorry, buddy. But it's just interesting because they have deemed that he had immunity during those times. So he has immunity. He's good. So even if he were in this situation that she's bringing up to get voted out 2028, which of course he will. I mean, there's no getting voted out. You can't go for another term. That's it. Someone else will step in. I'm hoping Tucker Carlson. The Simpsons said it's Ivanka. Simpsons hasn't been wrong very much, so it's probably going to be Ivanka. You know, I'm just going with the Simpsons, you know. High level Freemasons in the Simpsons. You got to respect it. It's very like he's going to have to leave office and he will be fine because if he has immunity during official acts, then he's fine. Everything he did that maybe people have a problem with, that they want to prosecute him about, they won't be able to, because he had immunity during that time. You don't leave and then all of a sudden your immunity wears away and now you're just open for prison. I don't understand why or how the mainstream media is so dishonest about how these things work, because it's easy to look into. We're at a point right now where you could use ChatGPT. I don't like AI. I'm just saying it's that easy. Where you could just type in, how does blah, 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 how does this work? How do you do this? Tell me in point form like I'm a 10-year-old. And it'll just tell you. That's where we're at right now. And they're acting like these people on these mainstream people act like they are the only source of information available. And there's no one else. Twitter doesn't exist. YouTube doesn't exist. Search engines don't exist. Nothing. It's just them. And sadly, for some people in their demographic, some people in their audience, they're actually very right. And that's a very scary thought, in my opinion. Last one. Oh, Psaki. Oh, Psaki. I was like, there's no one worse than Psaki as the press secretary. I was like, there's no one worse. And Psaki was like, oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? And then Mean Karine stepped in. Can't believe it. And then, funny enough, somebody working for the White House moves on to have a position at MSNBC. I'm so shocked. Now, she's speaking with Adam Schiff. They're going to be speaking about Liz Cheney. And then they're going to be speaking about Trump. Let's go. Oh, I probably have it on double speed. Normal.
The fire.
One of your former colleagues, Liz Cheney, just wrote a book. It's coming out tomorrow. Rachel Maddow's interviewing her shortly. She had this to say. I want to listen to something she had to say and get your thoughts on the other end.
Do you believe if Donald Trump were elected next year that he would try to stay in office beyond a second term? That he would never leave office?
There's no question.
You think he would try to stay in power forever?
Absolutely.
So she's pretty confident he would just try to stay in power. We've seen that in other autocracies, and we've seen it work in other autocracies. What do you think?
Well, I think she's absolutely right that Donald Trump will never leave office voluntarily. He just won't. And if anybody has any doubt about that, they should look at what he tried to do in the last presidential election. He lost. But they should listen to what Donald Trump has to say today. He's making it clear again that when he loses, he will contest it. He will argue that it's rigged and fraudulent, and he will terminate the Constitution if he is allowed to. He's also made it clear one of his plans is to use the military domestically. He tried to do that when he was president. And so, we need to take his threats seriously because we've seen him act on them. And this is who he is. And I think part of what we're seeing also is his team must have told him that he is frightening people with all of his anti-democratic talk and plans. And he is never one to back down in any way. So his response is, I'm simply going to accuse them of what I'm doing.
All that projection.
All that projection. Oh, man. Said like true Democrats. One from California, no doubt. Of course. Of course. Can't believe that they actually pulled that, because I constantly talk about Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals, the Democratic Handbook, the Democrat Handbook, the Leftist Handbook, the Marxist Handbook. And one of the rules is always accuse people of what you're guilty of. And now they're actually doing the whole thing of, oh, Trump's just projecting on us. That's all it is. Honestly, look up anything you just heard from those two and see if it's true. None of it's true. He's not made any threats that he's not going to leave office. He's not made any threats that he's going to use the military. He's going to contest it. And in one of my videos, I think I did it on my other channel, there is a compilation on Twitter of people contesting elections. And I'm talking about, this goes back all the way to young Nancy Pelosi. They have been contesting elections forever. Almost every single one. And it's not just Republicans and it's not just Democrats. It's both. Constantly contesting. So for some reason, when Trump does it, it's some crazy thing. I can't believe this is happening. It literally happens every election. There is not one election that's gone by since this compilation that I saw went all the way back to the late 80s. It's been going on for quite some time, guys. Like, this is not a new thing. People contest things. And my argument was, I think anybody's going to contest an election after you spend $600 million. I just spent $500 million and you're telling me I lost? Hold on. Wait, can you count them one more time? Of course you're going to do that. What are you, crazy? Come on. Who's not going to do that? Anyways, the infamous clip that they were talking about in the video, Chuck Schumer. And I just want to break down this situation right after I play this real quick.
But he's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them.
He even looks into the camera after he's done. It's an incredible clip. It's incredible that he's willing to say this. And again, Jimmy Dore says it perfectly. He's like, who do they work for? If the president's the one that has to fall in line, what's really going on? Now, I just want to break down this situation. I don't know if you guys know this, but during this interview that Rachel Maddow's doing, she randomly, okay, first off, she's Rachel Maddow, okay? I'm a guy in my spare room, and my phone is in another room somewhere, off, okay? That's one, okay? It's in another part of the house. She has her phone in front of her randomly, then goes, oh, this tweet just came from Donald Trump. Has Trump's notifications turned on. Okay, you're in the press, makes sense. But just randomly, she has her phone sitting there, then randomly she looks and says, oh, Trump just said this. This was actually planned, and that's what makes it even more nefarious, is that this didn't naturally just pop up. Where she goes, oh, Trump just tweeted this. What do you think about him taking these shots at the... It didn't randomly happen. It was planned. Chuck Schumer came on that show to give that interview, to send that message to Trump. And that makes it so much worse. So much worse. It wasn't an airheaded thing that he was just saying randomly. He came to deliver that message. Because again, I keep talking about this, but these mainstream media talking heads, people like him, they're being spoken through. And I love the fact that at the end they talked about the deep state, because that's who's speaking through them. We are getting our reality molded by people behind the scenes, and they use people like him and they use people like Rachel in order to do it. That's exactly what was happening. There's no way Rachel Maddow, who's getting paid 8 figures, is going to randomly have her phone be able to buzz while she's sitting in an interview with Chuck Schumer. That's not the time that happens. It never happens. In fact, if it did happen, they would edit it out because it would be such a blunder. But randomly, she picks up the phone, looks at it, and then they start talking about it, and then he says that. That was a planned message. A planned message. And that makes it 100 times more disgusting, 100 more times disturbing. And it makes sense, everything we see happening with Trump. What we are seeing with Trump right now are the 6 ways from Sunday. Makes sense to me. Could be wrong. Could be wrong, though. You know, like I said, I'm just in my spare room here. We're just talking. Anyways, guys, just wanted to make this video real quick, show you this whole thing. Like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. It helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.